Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to The Agenda with me and Phil Morehouse. How you doing, Phil? You all right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I was just listening to what was happening with Paula Venables, but you're not bothered about that. You're more bothered about the fact there's going to be a general election this week.
It's not bothered. It's just that it's now irrelevant. People are focused on the election. The entire Post Office Horizon scandal is no real bearing on it. It's really for later now. It's really for what'll happen now is when this inquiry is over and we expect the government to do something, or we expect some public body to do something, it will be under a Labour government. So
yeah, absolutely,
a Labour government that hopefully will like Keir Starmer at the last PMQs made a big show of transparency and candour, ironically, just as Rishi Sunak did when he started. Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, Rishi Sunak, when he first became Prime Minister. Oh, transparency. We should have lots of transparency. And then he organises an event yesterday where he's taking questions from people who are supposed to be basically working in a biscuit factory.
These two guys with the high vis on, yeah?
And they're Conservative councillors.
What?
And he even posed for a photo with them. The man's an idiot.
He's tiny as well.
He got outed by Adam Bienkov, Byline Times, who had a look at it and said, he had a look and that's a Conservative councillor. And then he found another one and said, that's a Conservative councillor as well. So
he should only pose for pictures with his fellow hobbits. I don't think he should do it with...
the other thing as well, why would you get councillors? There must be people who are just ordinary members of a Conservative, constituency type thing, ordinary party members who could have done it, who will not have an online footprint.
Yeah.
That would have been the best thing.
Yeah.
It's just this. It's the dishonesty, it's the stupidity, and it's the fact it shows. Well,
I feel it's the satirists I feel sorry for. Because it's like you couldn't make this up. We just want to say a big shout out to everyone in the chat. We've got Emma there, we've got Jupp, we've got Nick, we've got Johan. Someone's saying that it's a quiet week. This is Michael. Not sure what we can discuss. Been a slow week in British politics.
This is his latest offering. He's let someone take a photo of him doing that. As in, what is this?
Oh no, but that
this is like the Marie Antoinette memes are going to come out on this one.
I just loved him going to Wales and saying, "Hey, looking forward to the football." Yeah. And they're like, we didn't qualify.
The thing is, though,
basic stuff.
Well, it is, isn't it? Particularly someone from England. I mean, if you or I went to Wales and then said to Welsh football fans, "You're looking forward to the Euros," they would knock us out. They'd think we were taking the mick.
Yeah.
So it's just clueless. Absolutely clueless.
Johan saying, on behalf of all hobbits, please retract that insulting two hobbits comparison. Look at it.
I mean, this is what he put out a video as well yesterday on social media saying this is what we're all about type of thing, and it actually had as the opening shot him walking away, not soaked to the skin. But walking away, it's like, that is what we want. He said, this is what the election campaign is all about. Yeah, you walking away, pissing off.
Well, you were talking about yesterday about Labour not being great at social media, but I mean,
dreadful.
You know that it's going to pick a frame from the beginning of your video as the thumbnail. Like, you don't get to choose your own thumbnail on Twitter. It just takes still. So you make sure that the first few seconds of your video has your message on it, so people who don't watch the video will see it. So if the message is, we should be elected for some reason. John Hart, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's really kind. Thank you. I believe the Labour candidate will win in Islington, but heaven help the activists, as it will be a very bitter and divisive contest. It will.
I mean, for those who don't know, the members of the local Labour group there have put out a statement calling for everyone to denounce. They've actually called Corbyn's behaviour selfish, and calling on any other activists within the CLP there, of which there will be some, If they don't like it, can they kindly piss off without haste?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be nice. I've said it from the start. My sympathy is with there's 2 shortlisted, and the decision's going to be made on June the 1st.
Do you know something else as well? I hate to sound ageist, but he's 73 years old. I mean, doesn't he want to retire? Doesn't he want to just?
He didn't have to retire. He doesn't have to.
The last few years of his life.
All he does anyway is go around the world trying to find various Marxists to talk to. He could do that. He doesn't need to be an MP.
Have his own YouTube channel.
He could do whatever he likes. He could do whatever he likes. All of the stuff he does anyway, all of the stuff that people go, oh, Jeremy, you're so great for anyway, he can do without being an MP. He's got his benefit from Labour. He's got his pound of flesh from them. He's built up a name. He already has that. He doesn't need to be an MP. In fact, outside of Parliament, he'll be even freer to go around being a tosspot. So I don't really know why he even wanted this. He because what he's done is he's screwed over his own mates. He's screwed his own mates over.
He's sticking one to Labour. That's what he's always done.
Labour aren't his mates. He's now put a lot of his actual mates in Labour in a difficult position, because Momentum will now have to collapse. I mean, they won't. Momentum have to support the Labour candidates everywhere, including Islington North. Otherwise, they will be kicked out. So they will do that anyway. But that means some of Momentum's support will naturally leave, because they'll go, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to campaign for our Jeremy. So they will...
they stick together, don't they, the private school mafia? Worth pointing out that Momentum was co-founded by 2 private school mafia members.
Of course it was.
And the guy who invented comprehensivization of the UK, he was a Labour education minister, his name escapes me, which is annoying, but he is on the private school mafia list. So someone who went to private school said to everyone else, you've got to go to a comp, but not us.
But also the members of the SCG, so like John McDowell, Virgin, the Bailey bottle, the rest of them, they're all now. Someone's going to ask them. Someone's going to ask them about it, and at least before deadline day, they won't be able to say anything other than. In fact, they're going. They'll actually be. They can't show any support for Corbyn at all, because then that is a breach of party rules, and off you go. And if they did it, you could almost imagine John McDonnell keeping his powder dry, then announcing his support after the deadline when it's too late to do anything. Sure, okay, then he'll get to be an MP again once, because then he'll lose the whip, and but he's old enough anyway. Whereas you could imagine some of the younger ones who want to, people like Rebecca Long Bailey, who's otherwise, because her job before she became an MP was actually promoting privatisation of the NHS. She tries to keep that quiet by saying, oh, there was no other work I could get. So by her own admission, she's largely unemployable.
What, Rebecca Long Bailey worked privatising the NHS?
Well, she as a solicitor, she wrote out the contracts for like CPI and stuff. PPI, CPI, behave yourself. PPI, so basically her job was privatising bits of the NHS.
Oh, that's like Thatcher was responsible for getting rid of more grammar schools when she was education minister than any of the Labour education ministers. But, just before you go on, I've got a couple of super chats that I need to just get through. So One Angry Pagan, thank you very much. Sky News reporter got manhandled at Tory event. That was hilarious as well. A news reporter taken out. And also, worth noting that we'll talk about this in a moment, but Sunak is micromanaging his whole thing, and it's not going to end well. It hasn't started well. It's not going to end well. Jax, £5 super chat, thank you very much. He's been in Parliament for 40 years, and I'm sorry, but that's a long time, and we need some fresh ideas. I couldn't agree more. He's got what he wanted. He made sure the Tories were in charge for a long time, and he got his Brexit that he's wanted since 1975.
Yeah, well, I mean, have I got news for you? Their latest wag today is Jeremy Corbyn is standing as an independent. This presents a significant challenge to Labour, just like in 2019. he was the main vote loser in 20. And I'm sorry for people. There are people who just genuinely, because he champions these policies that you also agree with, and actually we both agree with here. Yeah, you think, he's our man. He's not. Stop being so tribal. Really, if I can give any advice to anyone, stop being tribal. He's not. He's not helped anyone. He's not helped anyone ever.
Well, here's
apart
my
from
number
himself.
one Labour policy that I want to see enacted: Labour winning an election. That is the number
Well,
one. Everything else is, it's secondary to them winning, because they can't enact any of this stuff unless they win
no,
a bloody election.
they can't.
Matt can't play. Thank you very much. You can play, Matt. Don't let anyone tell you can't. Thank you very much for the super chat. I was going to say that this was the first time Corbyn acted in the interest of the Labour Party, but Phil already said this in his video. Do you think that he's acted in the
Yes,
interest of the Tories?
absolutely.
The Labour Party?
Because the way I phrased it in my video is, it's really good when the poison voluntarily chooses to leave your veins. He's now out of the Labour Party, but more than that, people in the Labour Party, if they support him, will no longer be in the Labour Party. They have to make a choice. And why? Oh, we've been purged like they did before. No one's been purged. You've made a choice. Labour had said, do you support Labour, or do you support these people that oppose Labour? Choose. Yeah. You're not being purged. Yeah. You're choosing yourself. And the same thing has to happen here. The same thing with Momentum. Momentum, in terms of its stated aims, I should be a big supporter. It's absolutely amazing, except for the fact that they work against Labour's interests. They do not work on the basis of promoting policies. They work on the basis of attacking Labour. Yeah, that is their, it's so yes, this is entirely, even if Corbyn won, this is entirely within an advantage to Labour. However, and I don't have hard data, but I do know from people who are similarly analytical, who are in the area, they really don't think. They think people will vote Labour. He's popular. Yeah. They're not saying it's not. He is popular, sure, but they think people will realise actually what they want is a Labour MP.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, he's been there he's 73 years old. He'll be 78 by the time this Parliament's over, if he gets elected. And we're talking about how old Biden is, and he's too old to be president. It's like, well, it's a lot of work being an MP if you're a good MP. And I'm not saying that Corbyn's not a good MP for his constituents, but to be honest with you, like, once you're that age, you can't have the same vim and vigor as someone who's just even 10 years younger, never mind, 50. Super chats come in. Thank you very much from Scandal UK. Please tell me they will recover some of the fraud funds that the Tories refused to investigate. Fingers crossed. Yes.
They have a policy of doing just that.
So tell us about that, Phil.
I don't know. Other than that's it. That's it. Oh, okay. That's the end of it. They have said that they are not going to write off fraud, that they are going to, now they won't be able to chase all of it down, but they are going to have people chase it down. They're not going to make a ministerial decision that we should just forget about it. Yeah. In fact, Yvette Cooper has said that Labour are going to be hiring more tax investigators as well. So more tax. There's a specific policy. Rachel Reeves, not Yvette Cooper. Sorry, will be trying to chase down tax avoidance, because when people say, where's Labour going to get the money for this? Well, some of it is in the form of tax rises on the wealthy. Keir Starmer has said today that the VAT on schools, that's happening straight away. It has to. School, he can't wait, can he? Because they'll win power. They'll have like a couple of weeks before the summer recess, then the school term starts. So he's got to get in now. But he said, that's happening straight away. So there are going to be tax increase on the wealthy, but also there's a massive amount of tax that you don't have to change the tax rates, the tax that people owe, that people just don't pay and should. There's a lot of tax evasion, not just avoidance. Yeah. And also they want to close down some of the tax avoidance schemes as well. Yeah, absolutely. We've got another super chat here. We've got a question for you. Thank you very much, Owen. Phil, what is Labour's stance on upholding the military covenant and improving living conditions for military families? I don't know, in all honesty, that Labour have said a great deal. If they have, I've missed it, about anything on defence matters, including that. That is remarkable. I don't think they certainly haven't pushed it, and I haven't seen really anything. So, in all honesty, I don't think they have one. It doesn't mean to say they won't, but I don't know. I don't know that they've got a policy on it. Yeah, fair enough. I was just going to say as well, we were talking about VAT on schools. I don't know if you saw this morning in one of our
WhatsApp groups, but David Bailey put in, don't get me started about VAT. The full state subsidy is at least £25,000 per private school place when you add in all the reliefs for schools, VAT, capital gains tax, CT, business rate, stamp duty, and for parents, LLP reliefs, limited company reliefs, IHT relief, trusts, large donor reliefs, and CGT avoided, capital gains tax avoided.
But basically, we pay more money for a private school student than we do one state educated.
Yeah. Trevor's accusing me of being ageist. You might not have the vim and vigor, but you do have the experience without which the vim and vigor is not.
What experience?
Use.
What experience do you have? He's got his experience now is of holding up a piece of cardboard and going down with this sort of thing. That's his experience. Don't need a lot of training to do that.
But I was just thinking more about his health. I mean, he's getting
on.
No,
he's perfectly healthy.
My mum's still working. She's older than Corbyn. She's still working full time. And
I have an issue with that.
I wish she'd just chill out.
From my point of view, and I've made this point really clearly, and I will continue to make it. If you want to do your own thing, you stand as an independent. If you stand under a party's banner, there is a covenant there that is they use the party machine to get you elected, because he never would have been elected in a million years. You wouldn't even know he was if he hadn't used and abused the Labour Party. You would never know who he was. It'd just be another privately educated Genevieve or Tarquin going around throwing glitter at people, right? That's what he'd be doing.
He only went to a private prep school. He didn't go to a private secondary school, but he's still on the list.
But that's all he would be. So the covenant is they get you elected. In return, it don't mean to say you have to blindly do everything they say, because your leadership may make a mistake, or there may be local concerns in your local constituency. But ultimately, what you do is you work your bollocks off trying to get that party to win power. That is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Are you trying to help that party get elected? And if you're not, then you should not be the candidate.
Yeah. Good question from Gary Arnold. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Will Labour have an emergency budget?
Takes too long to do a budget. Takes best part of a year. I mean, I can't say what they will or won't do. There might be some little privilege, like, for example, they're going to have to put the VAT on private schools. They said they're going to do that straight away. Yeah. So there will be some things happening, just like the Conservatives in January reduced national insurance before the official budget. But it takes a long time to work, because remember, like, you imagine a huge for the entire country, a budget, and every time you tweak one thing, you knock on effects for other things. So you have to. It takes the best part of a year, and you can't do it before you've won power, because you don't do it. You just decide the policy on it. It's the Treasury officials who actually come up with the budget based on their political masters and mistresses' edicts. So but it does mean that the budget next year should at least be a proper Labour budget.
Yeah. We've got a note in saying from Click saying, didn't Starmer go to private school? Yes, he did. He went to Reigate School, I think, same as Fatboy Slim. However, it wasn't a private school when he started. It was when he ended. And I would argue that he still had a lot of the benefits that come from going to a private school. By all means, go to privateschoolmafia.com, have a look at the list of people in public life who went to public school or private school.
Yeah, but it wasn't a private school when he entered, and he didn't pay fees while he was there.
He didn't
and I've seen Tories saying today, you say, going on about his father's a toolmaker, he owned a factory. No, he didn't.
No,
he didn't. He just happened to be, like, he had his own business. He wasn't a factory. He didn't own a factory. He had a workshop.
Yeah. The other people who went to Reigate include, oh my God, it's just, when you move something and it disappears off the screen, it's so annoying. I'm going to come to your super chat in a moment, Owen. But first, Reigate School. David Williams went to Reigate. Yeah, like I said, Fatboy Slim, Norman Cook went to Reigate. Ray Mears off the telly, the guy who teaches you how to live off leaves. I don't think he ever had to do that in real life if he didn't have to, if he didn't want to. And Romesh Raganathan Orangutan. He went to Reigate as well. So there you go. People off the telly and stuff, and also music. Also, Owen Knight, thank you very much for the super chat. That's very kind. Another question. Do you agree that while the opportunity should be available to go to uni, not everyone is cut out for it, and that trade apprenticeships should also be encouraged? Yeah.
There are people who go. Yeah, there are people who go to university and don't get value from it. The problem is though when people will use that as an excuse to stop poor people going to university.
Yeah.
There's loads of these people that end up not getting graduate jobs, and what's the point? It's like, okay, the point is that everyone then has the opportunity to go.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about is restricting access for people from ordinary backgrounds to go to university.
Yeah. Yeah. What else have we got in here? We've got Phil is a private school lad. I think that's a bit unfair because it was only like the first 2 years of your life. 2 years.
Well, not of my life. They didn't throw me there straight out the maternity ward. But the first 2 years of formal education.
Alec Barrett, thank you very much for the £5 super chat there. April public borrowing was approximately 1.7 billion in April due to reduced national insurance receipts. The national insurance rate cut has to be reversed.
Yeah, it won't be.
Yeah,
it won't be. Or I'd be very surprised. It would be basically the three big things of VAT, income tax, and national insurance. They're very politically sensitive. I mean, interestingly, the Conservatives, I mean, they're the ones who actually do increase the rate of, like, the first thing they did in power was increase VAT by a third.
Yeah.
It was, because they put it down to 15%, and it was 15% when I was a lad, then it was 17.5% when I was a teenager. And then I think it went down to 15% again with the pandemic. Then the Tories put it up to 20%. It stayed there. So their first act was to put up VAT, which of course is a tax that predominantly affects the poor because it's on the stuff that's a disproportionate amount of your income.
Yeah. As
a poor person. So, but for Labour to put them up, like the Conservatives get away with it, they blame Labour. It's Labour's fault we're having to put up taxes. Well, why didn't Labour put up taxes when they were in power then? Because reasons.
Yeah.
Labour managed to actually reduce VAT after the global banking crisis, which worked. People criticised it at the time, but then later on, the likes of the IMF were going, "Oh, that seems to have worked out. Well done." And then the Tories then whacked it up.
I've got a clip. I'm just going to cue it up. I've got a clip here from. Did you see this from Richard Holden last night on Newsnight?
I have seen. It may not be the same clip. I have seen clips.
Oh, it's a thing of absolute beauty. I'm just going to bring it up, hopefully on the screen. Let me just get that sorted. No, don't do that. Why is this not working? Oh, because I don't know why it's not working. Okay, so this is Richard Holden on the
breaking news.
BBC. What's
breaking news? The Labour has someone dropped out because they've just announced, or I've seen it announced anyway, Labour's candidate for Islington North. But the contest was supposed to be, the results were supposed to be June the 1st. I'm wondering if one of the other candidates has dropped out.
Oh, right. So they know who the candidate is.
Praful Nargund. I'm not sure. I know one of them was a councillor in Islington and one of them was on the London Assembly. I'm not sure which one this is.
Yeah.
I shall have to find out now.
Okay, well, let's quickly watch this. You won't get any sound, I'm afraid, Phil, but everyone else should get sound, I hope. Oh, this will be a bit embarrassing.
When it comes to net migration, in terms of bringing it down. Let me go through all the Tory pledges on this. 2010, Mr Cameron promised in the election campaign he'd bring net migration down to tens of thousands per year. Did that happen?
Well, it's quite clear that's not what's happened.
Right, 2015 Conservative manifesto, the pledge was reiterated. Did that happen?
Well, I think we've also seen huge, big changes.
Did that happen?
No, it clicked it in.
2017, Theresa May reiterated the tens of thousands pledge. Did that happen?
No.
2019 Conservative manifesto.
Victoria, you can go through all of this, and it's quite clear that we haven't achieved what we'd like to achieve.
It's really important because you've made this promise at every single election, and in fact, you've delivered the complete opposite because of policies you've implemented. The numbers have gone up and up and up. So I ask again, why should voters believe you this time?
I think in some areas, one of the big things that we saw, obviously, during that, at the start of some of those periods...
This is the Tory party chairman.
Obviously still in the European Union in 2015, for example, when there was no controls on net migration. We've obviously...
It went higher after Brexit, when you promised to take back control.
Well, there was obviously around that situation, there was also figures, because we didn't know who was in the country at that point. Many people then registered as British citizens or for indefinite leave to remain, or under the various different schemes we had, because we didn't know.
Net migration last year is double. It's double what it was in 2015,
exactly,
the year before Brexit.
Which is why we're bringing in these, a panoply of changes right across the piece, but particularly around student visas and other areas. And it's also why we've got to deal with the illegal migration as well.
Eviscerates him. My God. That was painful, absolutely painful to watch there. But yeah, that is what the Tories are putting forward as their to win this election. It's it's beyond anything. Victoria, Derbyshire is brilliant. Love Derbyshire. Love Victoria. Yeah, worth pointing out as well, although Victoria, Derbyshire, of course, she's on the private school mafia list, she's all right. And if you go to privateschoolmafia.com, there's a big disclaimer at the beginning that says, some of my best friends went to private school, and I have no problem with the people who went to private school. My problem is that here's a list of 1,200 people who went to private school who you see on the telly every day. That's my problem. Pure grade A gammon, says Captain Bart Roberts there. And like that CEO from the post office, washing his hands as fast as he can, which is, So it's not gone so good, has it, for the Tories?
No, I mean, they had a bad start to the 2019 one, but they were ahead then.
Greg Clark standing down, apparently. I don't know.
Another one. So is that 7 now since the thing announced? John Redwood was the big one.
Yeah.
He's decided he can't be asked to be told to sling his hook. He says, I want to do other things. Yeah, like had a good night's sleep on July the 5th. He don't want to be that, because he could have actually lost his seat. It's sort of a safe seat, but I think there was a real feeling he could have lost it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, arguably, there's a couple of things that have helped the Conservatives. One is John Redwood standing down. The other is there's someone who I should probably know. They're probably quite famous. But someone who works on the telly who's going to be the Lib Dem candidate for Sutton Coldfield. Now, the problem with Sutton Coldfield is I think the tactical vote there would be Labour. So unfortunately, having a personality stand for the Lib Dems makes it more likely the Conservatives now win that seat, which is disappointing. I wish they would put their celebrities where they're in.
Which celebrity is it?
I can't remember. I'm not very good with celebrities. I think it's someone who's worked on the news or something.
What's the constituency?
Sutton Coldfield.
I will look it up.
It's going to be whoever's the Lib Dem candidate there.
Someone put it in the chat.
But yeah, it's disappointing because Labour was sort of. I mean, I don't know exactly what the chances.
John Sweeney.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
From former BBC and now Bylines. So he's standing for the Lib Dems.
Yeah.
So will that allow the Tories to win there then? Do you reckon?
That will make it more likely, because when you look at the MRP polls, Labour were sort of snapping on the Tory heels and Lib Dems nowhere. So the clear tactical vote is Labour. But if you put a celebrity in, star power.
Andrew Mitchell has a 19,272 majority.
No, forget all majority numbers, forget them, they're meaningless. After 2019 was a stunning result for the Conservatives, and it was an an elevated result for them. Like, you'd be better off going back to something like 2017 if you really want to see. But then the boundaries have changed as well. I wouldn't quote any majority numbers at all. There can be mean. Some of the ones that got the biggest majorities could be very vulnerable now. And some that got more moderate majorities might actually be safer because it's not clear there's who the tactical vote is. There's the thing that makes a seat safe is not just past voting behaviour. It's also, if you wanted to vote against the Conservatives, is it clear who you should back?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things in the mix.
Well, yeah. I mean, that seems a bit of a weird place for John Sweeney to stand, but okay. I guess he's got some connection with it. Yes, it is John Sweeney as in the orange beanie.
Sweeney. Not John Swinney. That would be the SNP leader.
No,
that would be remarkable.
that
would be the news of the day and the century.
Would be a bit weird. Alec Barrett, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. And also the correction, borrowing in April 2024 was 1.5 billion more than April 2023 and 1.2 billion more than the 19.3 billion forecast. National insurance receipts down 1.5 billion. Yeah. John Thorsweet, no, John Raw, as in Raw, I think. Owen, thank you very much for the super chat. Is there likely to be a triage policy towards essential services and buildings? It's going to have to be, isn't it?
There has to be, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how the Tory media are going to react when Labour. They're probably not going to, on day one of a Labour government, point to all the things that are broken and say, this is what you get with a Labour government, because that would be a bit mad even for them.
Yeah.
But there's going to come a time when they do. There's going to come a time where they say, right, they've had enough, and all these things are still broken. They were all lying. And of course, it takes time to build a new school and build a new hospital. So I would be absolutely amazed if there were not an emergency plan to deal with that. In fact, in terms of emergency plans, one quick win for Labour. My partner and I were talking about this at lunchtime. So after the election, it'll take a few days for the government to form, because although we know who the cabinet are going to be, like Keir Starmer's still got to formally ask them. Then he's got to sort out junior ministerial positions as well, because there could be brand new candidates that will be up for jobs. So there is going to be like a reshuffle of sorts. You wouldn't think of the top team unless there were some surprising defeats, but I don't think there will be. And then you've got 2.5 weeks before the summer recess. And then, although Labour can do a lot just with changing government policies, like ministerial edicts, for example, they can, Liz Kendall can tell civil servants in the Department for Work and Pensions not to randomly sanction people just to be arsehole. So there's things that the government can just do without Parliament being there. But they'll have 2.5 weeks, then it's like summer recess, then 3 weeks, then conference. So legislation is going to take time. What we were both saying is, what we would do if we were Labour, if we were Keir Starmer, we would say, we've got an emergency. We've had 14 years of a Tory government, so there's stuff we need to do, and actually cancel some of the summer recess.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily say all of it, because, ultimately, if civil servants are on holiday, there's not a lot you can do anyway. But try and identify at least the 2 weeks where there's the fewest holidays booked, and go, right, so maybe you do something like have September. 2 weeks recess, then you come back for 2 weeks, then another bit of recess, to take account of the fact that civil servants will be on holiday anyway, and there's only so much a minister can do if the civil service isn't there to implement it. Yeah. But that would show that Labour is, that would be a difference, wouldn't it, for all the people? Oh, they're just the same. This would be Labour going, we can't wait to get started, and actually we're not going to let the summer recess get in the way because we've got stuff to do. So
they do. They need to hit the ground running, because they are going to be, as soon as they're in power, 6 weeks from today, the clock is going to be ticking on them, getting this country sorted, budget back together from the mess that the Tories have left it in. So it's in a fit state in 5 years' time for them to go back to the country and get re-elected. Otherwise, they'll be turfed out.
It's like my fiance was asking me, so how quickly will people feel a difference? And it sort of depends who you are. So if you're sending your little darlings to private school in September, you'll feel the difference immediately, but not a good one. But in terms of who will feel a difference first? So there's 3 levels of things that Labour can do. Well, 4, I suppose. The first is anything that a minister can just change immediately with the stroke of a pen. So, for example, the people who were very worried about what the Tories were saying, if you've got a mental health problems or disabilities and you receive any benefits, you were being properly targeted just a couple of weeks ago. Those people will feel a bit better. People on benefits should no longer be getting random sanctions for no good reason. As soon as Liz Kendall says the civil service, we shouldn't be doing that. So that can be an immediate change. That only affects, unfortunately, a small number of people who are not key in elections anyway. The second level is legislation. So some legislation can make a difference to people's lives straight away. Like, for example, the legislation that should be boosting workers' rights. But it takes time for legislation to be passed. We don't know how quickly some of these bills will go through, particularly when you've got recess and conference season coming up. The third level would be like money that can be spent straight away. So like public sector worker pay. Although they're not saying anything about that and they're not committing to it, they don't want lots of public sector strikes. And also, I remember back in 97, Labour weren't talking about that either. And yet I know as a new teacher, the pay went up quite quickly, quite, rapidly. It went up a lot. Well, it certainly went up above the level of inflation, and it kept going up and up and up, and it went up quite a bit. So although the economy is knackered now, we may not get the same rate of increase. We should start to see public sector pay increasing. Also, I would certainly expect that in the first budget, which could take a year. And then that should help feed into the economy, because it's literally the case. If you give money to people who are struggling, they spend it all.
Yeah.
You give it to rich people, they put it in savings, doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then the fourth level would be stuff that also needs funding, but also building. So you need to not only stump up the money, which takes, because the first budget will be 2025, you have to stump up the money, but then you have to physically build something as well. That is the stuff that takes several years.
Yeah.
Which is what they need to get on with really quickly, so that something is built by the next election. So there's different levels of people feeling the benefits, but they all have to feel the benefit come the following election.
We're getting a lot of love for Red Dwarf in the chat, randomly. Did you mention Red Dwarf?
I don't think so.
Daily Blase.
The emergency. We have a red alert. It's like, I want to go to blue alerts. He puts the blue alert on, I think. And then, I want to go to red alerts. Says, are you quite sure it does mean changing the bulb?
Daily Blase says, good afternoon, Graham, Phil, and good afternoon all. Hope everyone is very well. And I do hope that those in Wales are looking forward to the football.
I mean, I just couldn't imagine as an Englishman going to Wales and go, hey, are you looking forward to the Euros? Like, it's mad. It would be, I wouldn't do that. It's like you would be taken as, it's not a friendly thing to say. Although a football fan will, of course, watch football. They'll always watch football if they're not in it. Like, remember, I don't actually watch much sport these days. I used to be a big fan of Wimbledon when I was younger. Yeah. And ironically, it was Tim Henman who put me off because he started looking like he might win. I used to like it when the British players had no chance because I could just enjoy the sport.
We backed him all the way to the semi-finals every time.
and when Andy Murray won, that was it. It was like,
all bets are off now. That was great though.
Because it's horrible. It's actually horrible.
No, it's not. It was great when he won. It was the summer of 2013, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's just ruined Wimbledon for me because I used to like just watching it as a neutral and not really. You have your favourites, but you don't really mind too much.
Did you see the Labour Party ad about 14 years ago and what things were like 14 years ago? Did you see that?
Yeah,
it's very good. Very good. Well done, Labour, for that one. We criticise Labour's comms a lot, but that was a good one. Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the super chat. What about Sunak's latest claims about the 40 new hospitals? We obviously know it was all and still is yet another Tory failure and Tory lie. Yeah.
And they were at the time. We knew it was a lie at the time.
Yeah.
At the time. They were mentioned it, and people were, 40 new hospital, that sounds good. And now it's supposed to be by 2030. And someone was asked like a week or two ago who's involved in it, and they said, are we likely to see any of these new hospitals being built by 2030? And they said no.
Yeah. Thank you very much to Stu for the super chat. Steve Bray's "Things Can Only Get Better" was top quality British banter. This is how you go against the government, not an insight at a capital riot. Just play things, play that. Yeah, absolutely, Stu. Couldn't agree more. That's the British way of doing it. And Colin Baker is asking, does Graham know there really is a pub called the Egbert Arms in Liverpool? Yes, there is. And if you go to the Pokestop there, it actually says on the Pokestop description that it's the legendary birthplace of Dave Lister. Well, not birth, he wasn't born there, but he was found in a cardboard box under the pool table. But yeah, you can go and visit the Egbert Arms. They changed the name for a few years, and everyone's just like, why have you changed the name? It's really famous. Change it back. And then they changed it back. But if you get the 61 bus to Egbert Vale, you will go past the Egbert Arms, which isn't spelt like you would think it was going to be spelt. But you spelt it right, so good. Who thinks Jeremy Corbyn will be the next PM, says Adriano Hammond. No one?
He had 2 cracks at it.
Pure Taz, good news is I'm getting a new hospital, but the old one is falling down from rack, which is not great, is it? Yeah, is there a crowdfunder to buy Steve Bray a new amp?
Yes, he does have crowdfunder.
He does have a crowdfunder. I'll try and find I'll try and find it online while Phil tells you what his funniest moment of the campaign so far has been, or the bit that you've enjoyed the most.
Honestly, don't know. There's too many. He's like a meme machine. He is. It's incredible.
Is any of this done on purpose?
I think the funniest aspect of it was, so when he announced the election, so yesterday was pretty bad. Okay, the start to his campaign was pretty bad, but the actual announcement was still the worst thing. Yes. And it's the fact that, okay, loads of memes coming out, and I haven't stacked any up, but I could show some. It's the fact that some retailers got in on the act, like Curry's did an advert, and it was like Rishi Sunak doing his speech in the pissing rain, and Keir Starmer behind him with a speaker, as if he was the one playing, things are going to get better. So Curry was advertising their range of speakers. Like, there's been someone else as well, like, Aldi. Aldi making a joke about it. It's like Rishi Sunak looking really miserable on his lectern, and it's saying that look when you spend £40 in Tesco and found you've only bought milk and eggs. So the fact that retailers have making advertising campaigns based on that is gold dust meme territory there. And that's probably the funniest thing, that retailers have jumped on it. This is why I saw some people saying, "Oh well, people, it was one of those things. People forget about it." No, they won't. No, they won't. That is his, like, the defining image is like Liz Truss, it's that lettuce. For Rishi Sunak, he made his own meme. He's memed himself. Yeah. No, and it just shows how poor his advisors are.
Memed himself to death.
His own advisors are utter cretins. It is like the thick of it when you've got the Capaldi character who's raging at basically everyone. But the problem with Sunak is he doesn't have a Capaldi character. He doesn't have this cynical, shouty bastard who goes, "Are you effing mental?" The idea of someone, like, you will attest to this for our international viewers, people in this country have an unhealthy fascination with weather forecasts.
Yes.
There's no way they
didn't know it was newspaper every day.
There was no way that there was no one in his team who was aware that it was going to piss it down, and yet they still chose to do it on the street when they've got a £2 million press conference room in Downing Street, where they would have also blocked out the very, very predictable sound of Steve Bray. Yeah. If any of his advisors did not think to themselves, "Do you think Steve Bray's going to piss on our parade?" Then,
but it's like they've just fallen to earth, isn't it? I mean, like Sunak, it's like he's just fallen to earth. Stu, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. That's really kind. The greatest civil disobedience ever. The orange one can only dream, indeed. And One Angry Pagan is giving away 14-year-old bloody Doctor Who spoilers here. It's been the last 14 years has been if Dr. Havel Saxon brackets the Master. Oh, you've ruined. The people might not have seen that. Has been secretly in charge, and we haven't got the Doctor to save us. Doesn't she look tired? That's all I've got to say to that. But yes, there was another message I was about to read out. It's like Miliband's bacon sandwich. Yeah, never eat food in front of photographers.
Well, Sunak can't even look at it. I'm going to have to do this again. I can't believe What was he doing? I'm going to put on a confused expression while looking at this very ordinary item. What is this? It's bread, Prime Minister.
What is this earth? Terran food you eat.
Like, for goodness sake.
This Terran food displeases me. Throws it on the floor. Breaks it in half.
I can't actually, in all honesty, it's not just that the photo looks bad. I can't, in all honesty, know what he was actually concentrating on. Like, why has he brought it so close? I can't even imagine the innocent explanation for that photo.
He's also blocking out the letters Riz out of Morrison's, which is short for charisma, which obviously he has none of.
I don't get it.
Before we go, I want to talk about the threats that Labour face over the next 6 weeks. It looks like it's in the bag. But we can never be complacent. What are the sort of things that you think that could seriously derail the project of crushing the Tories?
The only thing, two things. First of all, I think a lot of people are looking at the polls and the size of it. Reform UK are a huge spanner in the works, not for the Tories, but for this idea of crushing the Tories, because the polls are inflating. I am absolutely going to guarantee the polls are inflating them. And the main reason I will say that, it's not just a weakness in the polling methodology as such, or I think there's a little bit of that, but not a massive amount. It's that Reform UK have derived all of their support from being platformed on mainstream media much more than they should have done. They don't have much money at all. Like Richard Tice is basically bankrolling 80% of it currently, and he said himself he's been spending like less than £1.5 million a year. I mean, even if he doubles that for this election campaign,
they've got 620 candidates, haven't they? How have they vetted all them? Come on,
they haven't. We know
it's going to be like Attila the Hun.
Actually, do you know what though?
It's going to be like Genghis Khan.
They might get cover because the Tories have got to come up with they've got 100 candidates missing, so they've got to come up with them a bit quick. Their vetting procedures not going to be great. But yeah, so it's like. They haven't got a grassroots campaign. They don't have a local. They don't have the local infrastructure to get volunteers going out, knocking on doors, delivering leaflets, stuff like that. They'll have it now. They'll have it here and there. They don't have the money. They don't have the infrastructure. They cannot compete in this campaign, particularly as they're not even going to get as much attention in the news media. They'll still get attention, of course they will. The media like them. They're outrage. But they've got to start paying attention to the Greens and the Lib Dems, and even the SNP implied, even in the English news, because the SNP at least are going to be a significant factor. So that naturally squeezes Reform out a little bit. So it's Reform. So Reform UK are not going to get the share of the vote that people think they will, and that helps the Tories. So. That will turn what would otherwise be a lot of very tight-looking contests, maybe not so tight. But then the other thing, in terms of what the Conservatives can actually do, is we are expecting very, very dirty tricks on social media, whether it be targeted campaigning, stuff like that. So that's all they can do. Their normal, everyday campaigning is going to be a disaster because Rishi Sunak's idiot.
So just a couple of super chats to go through. Owen, thank you very much. Very generous today. Thank you. Still explains the medicine shortage or the medication shortage. Levido needs all the blood pressure tablets. Did you watch Question Time?
I watched bits of it.
Yeah, I watched the highlights. It was another absolute car crash for the Tories. Brad W, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Shaps can send a dozen candidates as himself. Yes. Smiley winky face. Something I'd like to point out as well, when we talk about threats that Labour's got to face, I mean, the whole of the media establishment pretty much is against Labour. Yeah. Even papers that you would think would want a Labour government rather than this sadistic Tory government, like, I don't know, The Guardian, seem to absolutely have it in for Keir Starmer and put out opinion pieces on a daily basis saying that he bites the heads off.
There's only The Mirror. The Mirror is the only mainstream paper that is pro. None of them should be. I'm going to say that. None of them should be. But given that they are all partisan, The Mirror, the only pro-Labour paper in England at any rate.
What I see as a big threat is going to be the Tories using the same dirty tricks they used during the election in every election, actually, and also the referendum, in which they basically micro-targeted potential Labour voters on on Facebook, older people in general who might not be able to tell the difference between AI and reality. Not all old people, obviously. Some people are shit hot at that. We'll give them fill them up with disinformation, especially people who are disenchanted Labour voters, people who maybe voted for Labour in 2017, 2019 because they liked what Corbyn said, and now he's out the picture. The Tories can push that message. That is the biggest Tory message that they can get out is that Tories and Labour are just the same. And the misery and the sadism that is going on now under the Tories will continue under Labour. That's the message that they want to put out, because like what they did in America in the 2016 election, 2020 election, they put out messages to black American voters saying there's no point in voting. Targeted ads. But here's something. There's only so much money that the Tories can actually spend on advertising. So if you put something out on your Facebook feed saying, I normally vote Tory, but I'm not sure who to vote for in this election, and just put it out in public like that, they'll have to spend money trying to convince you to vote Tory. And that's a bit more of their money they will not have to convince someone
they will,
else.
And partly the reason for that is the fact that they don't have as many activists as Labour, for example, because there will be Labour activists on groups, Facebook groups and things like that, just volunteering their time to highlight certain things. You've got to be a bit careful on community Facebook groups that you're not overtly political, unless that community group wants to be. But you can still, there's nothing wrong with sharing news stories, for example, that might be of interest without comments. And there'll be a lot more Labour activists than Tory activists doing that. So the Tories will basically have to pay for that, but they will pay for it. And it will be sophisticated. Whether it's effective is another matter, because at the end of the day, the country is in a right state. It's like, back in 1997, the economy was sort of okay. It got a lot better, but people didn't realise that it would get a lot better under Labour. They saw it as being okay, and most voters thought that the Tories were still the better party with the economy. The Tories basically had some policy areas that they were winning on, even though they lost a landslide. Right now, that is not the case. That people do not feel that the Tories have any strengths at all.
Couldn't agree more. And they don't. I mean, the Tories are just falling apart like wet bread. It's quite impressive and quite gratifying to see. We've got a message here from Nick. Apparently, Sunak has said that Warhammer is for kids.
Has he?
Mate, no, probably not. It's probably just winding you up. But sounds like something he would say. Johnny Cophead.
He'd already lost my vote anyway, if I'm going to be honest.
Johnny Cophead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Tories cheating, lying, and trying to con the British people. Heaven forfend. I mean, could you believe it that they'll try everything? But did you see the interview with a self-proclaimed Brexit hardman, Steve Baker? Did you see his interview where I think that was Victoria Derbyshire as well?
Can't remember it, honestly.
She was saying, so are you going to win this? And he's like, no, it's probably not.
He's off on holiday.
And then she says like, oh, what are you thinking of doing if you don't get elected? And it's not even a second pause. And he just starts going on about going on motorbikes and
doing all of his, all of
jumping
his
out of planes.
Sports,
He didn't even go, well, I don't know. I was thinking, I might spend more time with my family. I'm really into adventure sports and that.
He knows he does that anyway. He is, but I mean, you could sort of tell he's given up anyway. He's already done his damage. It's like John Redwood announcing he's standing down. He's already done his damage. The damage is already done. Steve Baker, that's why he took this ministerial position. It was just his last hurrah. You got that impression anyway. I'm surprised he's even standing because he came out with that a statement as well, saying how Brexit had damaged his mental health. It's like, well, whose fault's that? It's the damage is done. He wasn't going to do any further damage anyway. The likes of John Redwood and Steve Bray. There are some
Steve Baker, not
Sorry.
Steve Bray.
My apologies.
Steve Bray's got way more damage to inflict on the Tories. Someone said, "What's he going to do when Labour win?" And I said, "Well, first of all, he's Labour. Secondly, he wants to stop Brexit, and he's going to continue to campaign to stop Brexit. And good on him.
He'll be haranguing Labour ministers.
Yes, he will be. Okay, good. Did you see him? He took on Nigel Farage, called him a fascist to his face like
Yeah.
7 times. That was quite nice to watch.
But but the ones who can still do damage, those are the ones to focus on. So Liz Truss is like the biggest name who could still cause a lot of damage, who could actually lose her seat. Braverman and Badenoch are probably too safe, but never mind. You never know. To be fair, you never know.
Yeah. Craig dropped in a super chat just to say now he'll be in a feud with Cleverly over WH, which I assume is Warhammer. Could be the White House. Too.
Oh, yeah, he plays. Yeah, he does play. I don't know
Does
what
he?
he plays, but apparently he plays. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Nick Wilson says parachuting, motorbikes, and fast catamaraning. What a knob. Wow. See, the thing is with sailboats is they go really slow. People go, oh, wow, we're really going really fast now over the waves. And you go, how fast are we going? And they go, we're going at 7 knots. And you're like, 7 knots? How fast is that? And they say 7 nautical miles an hour. Yeah. Honestly, you can walk faster.
Well, you can go over a waterfall. You'll get some speed.
Yeah,
go over Niagara Falls.
Yeah. No, the racing yachts get up to like 30, at least 30 miles an hour. I mean, they really go. I mean, like they're like the clappers. But no, generally speaking, yachts are like the slowest way to get anywhere.
Sorry,
along with elephants.
Wanger Pagans just said something about Hilary Benn. He's not standing down, is he?
What?
He's
Hilary
not.
Hilary Benn? No, I can't say that.
Any idea who'd replace him if he did announce he's standing down? I don't. No, not at all. But surely he's not going to. Why would he do that?
I wouldn't
just
think
on the
so.
verge of winning. There have been some Labour, to be honest, as well. If anyone
he's
70.
He's 70. He might want to just spend some more time with his family.
Yeah. But no. So, but it's there have been a few Labour MPs announced they're standing down. If they were going to, they should have really done it by now. They need to do it quickly because we need to get candidates sorted. But I have no idea. I don't live in Leeds, so I don't know.
Yeah,
who would even stand? And I probably wouldn't know them anyway. So yeah. Oh, the other thing I should just point out before we do finish off. Do you know it's an anniversary today? It's a fourth anniversary. Do you remember a certain tweet? About
Ed Balls.
No, better than that. Fourth anniversary tweet. That's much longer. It's arrogant and offensive. Can you imagine working for these truth twisters?
Oh, that was an official government.
They never found him. They never caught
the Home Office, was it?
I think it was. They never caught him. Fourth anniversary today of that tweet.
Jeez, they weren't wrong, were they? Could you imagine having to work for these truth twisters?
Yeah,
arrogant and offensive. Yeah, well, that was 4 years ago, so that would have been
4 years ago today.
2020?
Yes, yeah, during the pandemic.
Oh, right. Yeah, bloody hell. Ivan Ambrose, thank you so much, Ivan, for the super chat. You've been so generous over the last few weeks, Ivan. How do we get people who are not politically engaged to vote in this most high-stakes election to get rid of the Tories?
I mean, if you know people to talk to them, you'll know yourself what they're. It's like being a salesperson, isn't it? Like it's like good salespeople try to identify all the potential like buttons that'll, and they try and throw out as many of those as possible. So you know the person. What is it that at the end of the day? There's 2 aspects to it. First of all is how it could make some difference, even if it's small. Second is making the process as easy as possible. So if they're really not engaged, don't expect them to go down unless you volunteer. Like, oh, come out with us to vote, and I'll buy you a pie on the way back or something. Depends on what they're like. Like near our polling station, there's a bakery, so you could always offer them to buy them a vanilla slice or something. But if that doesn't work and you think to yourself, they're not actually going to go out and vote, encourage them to get postal vote. Yeah. Just encourage them to register, get a postal vote, and then you can bother them about 2 weeks before have your postal vote arrived yet, and then just mither them until they fill the blue thing in and give it to you to post in a postbox. So make it as easy as possible to do it.
Yeah.
Don't bother them so much that they deliberately vote Tory just to spite you. Just try, you will know them. What are the issues that will make them at least think it's worth arranging a postal vote and putting a tick in a box if you offer to post it for them?
Yeah.
So they just have to fill it in, put it in the envelope, seal it, and then you will take it to the post box yourself.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I think everyone here should make a list of 10 people in their lives who they would like to see vote, who you think will vote. Put the X in the right box and just get in touch with them. Make sure they're registered. Make sure they know that they need ID if they're going to register, if they're going to vote in person.
Yeah, as I say, and if they don't have it,
yeah,
easiest way is just do a postal vote. Get them to do a postal vote.
Yeah.
And for university students who, you know, are likely to not be in their university digs, that's probably a good thing, because most university students will be better off voting in their hometown anyway, because a lot of university campuses tend to be in like cities which are already on large majorities, usually for Labour, but they're usually not marginals. They might be, it depends, have a look. But there's a much better chance they live in a marginal constituency than they go to university in one.
Gary's reminding us of the time in 2001 when Prescott socked a voter stroke protester.
Well, we had that anniversary recently.
Egg thrown at his head. He thought that he just felt it and thought that
he just had a blow. At the end of the day, you struck a boxer at the side of the head. What do you think was going to happen? And he had the nerve to complain. He had the nerve to post for the cameras going, look what Prescott did to me. What do you think was going to happen, you idiot?
The famous joke that he told was that Tony Blair said that he wanted him to connect with the voters.
Yeah. And then and equally funny from Tony Blair himself was when he was asked about it. And obviously he can't say, well, he got what coming to him. You can't say that as the Prime Minister. It's a bit menacing. So he just said, well, John is John.
Yeah.
That's it.
There you go. Brexit is Brexit.
John is John. I mean, at the end of the day, he was a boxer. The man was a boxer.
Admiral Pegasus says political studies need to be taught in state schools as an A-level politics. I got an A. And someone who studied politics at university. I disagree. I don't think that it should necessarily teach political studies. I think you should be teaching civics. So that, voting comes into that. But a lot of other stuff as well comes into it.
If you require everyone to be taught like politics or political theory or anything like that, you are going to end up with biased teaching. So you are better off focusing on the mechanical side of it in terms of rights, in terms of process and things like that, and hope that generates enough interest for people to start reading about politics anyway. Because I remember, when I was, and we had a teacher, Mr. Holland, he's probably dead now. And he was, this was at the time of the poll tax difficulties. And that caused a hell of a backlash. My goodness me. And he was explaining it to us, and he didn't lie, but he explained it in such a way as it got us. We were just like 13-year-olds, right? So we don't pay taxes. He got us convinced that it was actually all perfectly fair and all the rest of it. Okay, that's fine. And then I was talking about it with a mate of mine, and his mum, who was a Labour activist, overheard and says, well, would you like me to add my... So she contributes as well. And again, they both agreed with each other in what they were saying on the actual point, on the facts of the matter. But the way she explained it showed that it was actually terrible, new policy. So I went away thinking, oh, bloody hell, I've got to have to think for myself now. But neither of them lied. Neither of them lied. Both of them explained the facts without lying. They just presented it in a way that got you thinking one way with one of them and another way with the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. So thank you very much to Phil for, imparting your wisdom. Are you going to be around tonight, or have you got better things to do?
We're off to the gym again.
Oh, come on, mate. We've got 6 weeks till the general election. It's all hands on deck.
I've been told I'm going to the gym.
All right, okay. Go to the gym. Fine. See if I care. No, it's fine. It's fine. Well, Phil, I hope you have a good weekend. And everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us, our socialites in the chat. And also everyone who gave a super chat, which was amazing. Thank you. We took a lot for a Friday afternoon. So I'll be back at 9:00 tonight for the Labour Social. It'll be very boozy. It'll be very silly. We'll be making fun of a lot of Tory MPs, and especially Rishi Sunak, and talking about all that's happened this week. So please join us for that. It'll be quite joyous, I'm sure. Join us for the joyous Labour Social. And Frank has just slipped in a super chat there right at the very end. Thank you very much for that, Frank. You're very generous. And until tonight, I'll say thank you for watching. Give us a like on the way out. And hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.